Hello and welcome to Roll20CON. I'm your host, Anna Prosser-Robinson. Thrilled to see you back here today, Saturday. We had an awesome day yesterday celebrating tabletop games and talking about Roll20. We had some amazing announcements of what's coming up. We got to see the new Charactermancer feature that's coming on June 26th. We also raised money for Take This. Remember that you can still do that today. And I'm here with the entire cast of Rivals of Waterdeep. They're helping us open the day today, and we get to chat with them a little bit as we get started. I'm so excited to introduce them to you if you've never met them before, and also hear about their experiences premiering their show at the Stream of Many Eyes recently and everything. So because there's so many of you, let's do this. Let's start with, let's say, Tanya. Introduce yourself, tell a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then pass the baton to someone next until we've gone through all of you so that everyone knows who you are. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
All right. Who are you and what do you do, Tanya?
Oh God, I have so much I do. My name is Tanya DePass. I founded and run I Need Diverse Games, but on Rivals of Waterdeep, I play Celise Astorio, who's a human paladin that is kind of grumpy, but not really. And I stream on Twitch. I'm on a podcast along with Sharif and Cicero, Spawn on Me. And I write about games. I do a lot. I basically just run my mouth on the internet a lot.
And who do you...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and streaming is how I got to know that guy next to me, Brandon.
Oh, me. I am Brandon Sinnis. I do a lot of stuff. I work for Versus Evil. I'm an influencer manager. I'm a streamer. I'm a host sometimes. And I play Ren Leodon, who is a half elf in Rivals of Waterdeep. And yeah, this is my first time playing D&D like in general. So it's like a whole new experience for me. So I'm going to pass it to Cicero. Bam.
Cicero Holmes, a.k.a. the Internet Stubby Stan, a co-host of the Spawn on Me podcast, co-host of the Discovery Debrief podcast, and I play Perrin Underbow, a halfling bard here in Rivals of Waterdeep. And also my first time playing D&D. So I think it's time for me to pass it on to the froness that is Sharif Jackson. And
hey everybody, my name is Sharif. I'm the founder of Math Looks Good Tutoring. I'm a math and physics tutor. Also a co-host of the Spawn on Me podcast with Cicero and Tanya. And I do various other science and gamey things. I play Sharafka, aka Shaka, on the Rivals of a Waterdeep podcast. I'm a tiefling warlock, and I like doing magical things. So it's pretty cool. And I will pass it on to Serena.
Hi, everyone. I'm Serena Marie. I just started playing D&D a couple years ago, and since then I've been on the podcast The Dungeon Rats playing Bugfly, and a new cast member on God's Fall playing Caitlin. For our show, I play Ashburn, a scrappy little ranger who explores the world with her best friend and brother Fox Chips. And I'm really excited. Next to me, I have Carlos.
Hey, everyone. My name is Carlos Luna. I run a show called The Dungeon Rats. It's a podcast. I do sound design for it, and I'm also one of the players on the show. I'm also a cast member on God's Fall. I play Para. And I play Knock Knock, as well as I will be transitioning into playing NPCs on Rivals of Waterdeep. And I will pass this on to Aram.
Hey, my name is Aram. I am the Dungeon Master of God's Fall. I am the Dungeon Master of our trip through the Tomb of Annihilation. I am on the Dungeon Rats. I'm a founding member of Neon Rival, and I am the Dungeon Master for Rivals of Waterdeep.
And that's everybody, right? I think
that's
we
all
did
of
it.
us. Yeah.
Awesome.
We did it.
I think it's so interesting because the buzz around your show was so much fun when we were at the Stream of Many Eyes. People leading up to it were very excited to see it. There was kind of this like, did you hear that there are some people who have played role-playing games for a really long time and then some people who have never played at all and this is their first time, and isn't that cool and isn't that kind of courageous? So tell me a little bit about how you guys all came together and decided to start Rivals of Waterdeep.
Well, Carlos and I were approached by Greg initially, and then they were like, do you guys have time to do this, basically? And we're like, yeah, we absolutely have time to do this. And he was like, I got all these people. I got you guys, I got these guys, I got the whole cast lined up. And why don't y'all meet and figure out if you can play a game in a couple weeks, then come to LA. Play them together. When we did that first stream, we had played a little bit of a test game, right? Like a couple hours, but we'd never really played together. We'd certainly never streamed. So this was
and never met each other.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, some of us.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Like it was like putting two families together. And the very first day we hung out, the very first day we actually sat down and just played a little test game, we knew instantly it was going to work out. We just felt the love. We felt comfortable. At least I know I did. And I feel like everyone else as well.
That's awesome. I always try to explain to people that there's kind of a like lightning in a bottle that you can get with certain casts that make a show just really sing. What do you think that is? And do you think that you guys found it?
I think we did.
Yeah, I think we found it right away, like instantly. Like we all like did the games and stuff. It just felt like instant family right away.
Yeah. I think initially, in some groups and when people are new, there's like this hesitation or this like shyness that happens. But when we started gaming with each other, it was just like we've known each other forever already. And just jumped right in.
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of people in gaming, when you play role-playing games, especially at a big table like this, everyone has these different criteria on what they think is fun. So sometimes play a role-playing game and there's like a numbers guy or a guy that just like wants to figure out the puzzle. And he doesn't care if his role playing is like hurting someone else or taking someone else's chances away or infringing on their fun. And I think we all sat down at this table. We were just like all about fun, wanting to have fun. This very yes and improv thing is happening.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You know a good table when you can tell they're friends. That's how you can tell. If the people around the table like each other, that's a good game and that's fun to watch. And you can just tell that.
That's totally true. And we actually talked a lot yesterday about setting expectations at the beginning of a game and making sure that everybody knows what they're trying to get out of it. Was that something that you guys did?
No, I don't think that we did. I don't think we never necessarily articulated it. I think we just we all have that same vibe where we just wanted to have fun. We wanted to get to know each other and be as open as we possibly could while also playing the game. And I think that has been part of the success of us genuinely becoming friends.
Well, I know I definitely articulated a little bit because I was definitely a little worried that being someone that's relatively new, gaming with people that are very experienced, I definitely wanted to make sure that the space was comfortable enough that I could be vulnerable enough to make mistakes and not feel judged.
Sure.
And I also had sort of these preconceived notion coming from more of the video game world of sort of the tabletop world being a lot more like you have to have all the rules mastered and know everything before you even play first. Like this weird, I tweeted that it was like this chicken and the egg problem, but with dragons in it. Because that's honestly how I felt. But, as like everybody said, like, from the first day, it just all gelled. And I've never felt, like I was behind or that I couldn't do something out of fear of, being yelled at or like Aram giving me a disapproving look from so it's been awesome.
Gonna come no matter what. I mean, it's not
well, and a big part of it too is that some of us are more experienced with D&D and some of us are also more experienced with streaming, because I'm sure Anna and others know that there's a difference between literally sitting around the table with your buddies and no one's watching and you can take forever to flip through rule books versus you're on. And we were thinking about that as we played as well, but we're all friends and we're not going to leave somebody behind because, I don't know this exact stat or this roll for a spell I want to do.
Right.
100%. 100%. Also, Carlos was instrumental when we first got together about going through the fundamentals of improv. He's taught the classes in it. He's really good at it. And I think that he can voice that much better than I can. So I found that really helpful as well.
That's really interesting because a lot of people maybe, like you said, Tanya, it's different to stream a game of any role-playing game versus just to be at home doing it with your friends. And I think improv is instrumental to being able to put on a good role-playing streamed show. So I would love to hear from Carlos or any of you about improv and how it plays a part in your show or in role-playing games as shows in general. Because I think maybe people haven't connected those dots sometimes.
Yeah. So Serena and I both have an improv background here in Chicago. We've taken classes, Second City, IO,
Annoyance.
yeah,
Everywhere.
all those theaters. And yeah, role playing really does lend itself to improv and vice versa. You can see a lot of things that people struggle with. I feel like the numbers are very safe, but the role playing is very open, and that's just like life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the rule. If there's more rules, it's a lot easier to like play in life. Like, you know what to do at the bus stop. You know, you're supposed to stand under there. Like, what are you supposed to do in an open world setting where you're basically a character that can do anything, and it's dictated by dice. So like approaching it in that sense where it's improv, where if we just say yes to each other and we try to add a little bit more to what other people say, because it's a shared world. It's a shared world and a shared environment, just in like an improv scene where what we're doing is making it up on stage. So as long as we make everyone's idea valid, then we're going to be okay. See, what the problem that ends up happening is sometimes you're at a table and you're in your own mind and you're seeing things very specifically, and then someone says something else to describe the world and you're like, no, and you say no because you want to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, you're hurting the other person. Now there is a way to protect yourself and say yes to that person at the same time. And that's actually one of the conversations that we had that night. We didn't talk about what I wanted to talk about was more what happens when that happens, when someone hurts your world, when someone doesn't say yes to your world, because it does hurt just like a little bit. And you see it build up over time, so long periods of times, people playing role-playing games at the table, right? Like you see, like, you know, you're on Reddit, every other like post on Reddit is like kind of in role-playing is kind of like, what do I do about my player that wants to do this? And my answer is always just say yes to it. And then it can unfold. The table knows what's right for the table.
Definitely.
Yeah. The idea about how role playing and all of that is like living in a world. There's no wrong way to like be a person. There's no wrong way to be a character. Like whatever lens you want to filter everything through is the correct lens. And finding your weird and your fun parts is what makes it more fun, and finding your games.
And when you make room for that, you have room for characters who can fail. You have room for characters who can completely F up a situation that makes sense for their character. And it makes them so much more real and so much more believable and so much more lovable. And if you don't have that space, everyone feels like they have to be perfect all the time, like action hero perfect. And that, for me, just absolutely kills any personality that could come from those individuals.
There's a saying in improv, if you're not having fun, you're the a-hole, basically. and if you take that and you apply it to like role-playing games, to RPGs, if you're not having fun, what are you doing at that table? Like, and it's the same thing. You might not have found your people either. Like we can all be musicians. You get us all in the same room, we're not going to make a great song maybe. But sometimes you do get musicians and you just feel each other's groove. Like a drummer wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to play this groove. And then like a guitarist like, oh, I'm playing this groove. It's like, no, well, to the table.
Definitely. I think it's interesting too, that you have some people who had never played before and came in. And I think that takes a certain amount of courage. And I think a lot of people who may be watching this, who love maybe watching live streamed role playing, but have never taken the step to play themselves, maybe have fear or barriers that they haven't been able to cross. Like, I don't know the rules well enough, like you said, Sharif, or I am intimidated by the community, or I can't find people to play. So I'm wondering if some of you newer players can talk about any of the challenges or nervousness that you had before you started playing, and then what it was like to just jump in, because it seems like you're having a great time now.
I was definitely scared, like just getting involved in general, because I had never played any tabletop game like ever. But just like being around this group of people has made me feel like so comfortable. And I've told everybody about my fears of, not knowing the rules or like how to play. And everybody's been like very like, made me feel comfortable and be like, okay, we'll help you out. Like if you need it. And as like, it was like, we were doing this, the first stream, as soon as we were doing it up there, I felt like, oh, wow. Like it all made sense to me. And like, we had to talk, like me, Serena and Carl, all of us had to talk beforehand. And I was like, trying to figure out my character and how to play him. And like, we were talking about improv and stuff. And it was just like, oh, like it instantly came to me like, he's going to be a 17-year-old, like just like a crazy kid and like an elf, but like he's just like all over the place. And it was a little scary at first because I've never like played a different character besides myself, but like I finally felt that. And like this whole group of people have made me feel so comfortable with playing D&D for the first time. And I was like, I don't want to play anybody else but these people right here. That's it. But it's been a great experience. And I'm really excited to see how far we could take this. And I felt like I tweeted about this a few weeks ago. Like, I felt like I was finally doing something that was bigger than me. And I felt like we're doing this game and it's fun, but like we're showing representation of people of all over. And I like it's just crazy, but it's a lot of fun, and everybody has made me feel great to be a part of it. So yeah,
I would say that, you know, coming from the video game world, where there is a lot of fun and there is a sense of community, but part of that sense of community is built on the calluses of tragedy or adversity via some toxicity. Coming into this world, there, you know, I'm sure it exists somewhere, right? But it is so minuscule that it might as well not exist. And you know, when all of the experiences that we've had have been overwhelmingly positive, so you know, so that part of it makes you energized to go out and do more of it. But also, like, the fact that we're not long time and experienced gamers kind of works to our benefit. So you know, in the premiere of the Stream of Many Eyes, I went out, or Perrin decided to use a spell to to convince Mert, who's a level 19. Now here I am, a level 4, a level 19 character to.
You cast a cantrip on him, and I was
yes,
like, all right, sure, why not?
Yeah. So so I mean, like, sure, go ahead and do it, and it worked. But it shouldn't have. You know, by any stretch of the imagination, it should not have worked. But it did. And
Mert was standing behind me, and I could literally hear his shoulders fall when he rolled that.
And I think you bring up a great point, C. Like, sometimes when you're in certain like communities, like the video game community or the anime community, you know, all these different kind of nerd communities, you kind of take for granted that you understand the language of that community, sort of like the like nuances, like the explicit and the implicit things. You know, like if I hand a controller to somebody that's never played a game, they're going to be messing with the analog sticks, looking straight up, straight down, you know, whereas me, I've been playing games for like so long that it's natural. So I was intimidated coming in because I was like, I don't know the language. You know, like, sure, I can read the handbook, you know, I can read the rules, I know what the die are, but there's still like just things like, you know, DC and saving throws and all this stuff that I've had to learn, and I've messed up, but I've never felt like I've messed up. You know, like it always felt like, oh, that was a screw up, but it was still fun, and we still, you know, and like Aram has been such a gracious like a DM, like he's really been there to, you know, to massage it and still, you know, and like that. And even being on stream, where I'm sure especially the more experienced players here are probably under a lot of pressure because they're like, you know, I'm known for this, and I'm on the Twitch channel, you know, for like D&D, and I feel like a lot of that intimidation for me has really kind of, I don't feel it anymore because I feel like I feel myself getting better, and I'm just having fun. I mean, it's all having fun, you know, like, and it's just great.
I did want to ask you, Aram, because I think that's a fear that a lot of players have where they're like, I know I'm going to have to ask the DM so many questions because I'm not going to know what to do. And I think when I started playing, I only had a very vague understanding of the rules and had to ask my DM almost every time, what do I do in this situation? What die do I roll? What do I add to it? As a DM, what guidance can you give new players as to A, overcoming that fear of asking the question, and then B, how do they be the best learning player that they can?
That's a really good question. Well, first of all, I've been playing D&D for 35 years and I screw the rules up all the time. It happens. There's a lot of rules and they get added to all the time. So you just can't be afraid of it because no one has all the rules down. No one. But on top of that, it's like anything else you learn by doing. You learn by getting out there and doing it. And if it's a good table of supportive people, there'll always be someone there who's like, oh, I know this, or I know that. And there's little tools you can use, like the spell cards are great. You can, but you can prep yourself as much as you possibly can. And there's still going to be times when someone doesn't know. And you work at it. You just figure it out at the table. The most important thing I would say for that is that find people you're comfortable with. Find people that you trust and that you count as friends, and then none of it matters. It's going to fall away when you're having fun anyway, and you'll figure it out. It's never going to ruin a game. It's never going to grind it to a halt. There might be a little pause while we're all flipping through books, but we're going to be fine afterwards because the rules are just guidelines to help us talk to each other. That's all they are. And it's the talking and the communicating and the playing and the exploring that actually matters.
I love the idea of, we've talked a lot about if you're friends, that's when your game really blossoms. And if you trust the people at the table, that's when you can really make a great story. I know that a lot of players look at a group like this and think, I would love to be part of a group like that. And I don't know where to find those people or how to even start. Do you guys have any advice for people like that?
I would say check Twitter, see who's on shows, but I'm going to be that person. There's also the very real issue of not knowing a lot of people of color because we don't get to go to conventions. This is the first show I've seen other than Dark and Dicey that is all people of color and also all marginalized folks, because tabletop is not always welcoming to folks that are not white bearded bro dudes. So there's the issue of, can I go to a store and be comfortable? Can I find people online? So I think starting on Twitter is a good place, but also, or just asking like, hey, I want to get in D&D. This is approximately where I live. Are there other POC that are playing? Search Twitch for people that are playing and go, hey, do you have an idea where I can find other folks? Maybe I don't want to stream it. I just want to play with other people. Use Roll20. That's how I found a lot of people. And it's like, I knew Alex before that, but it's one of the ways in which Alex and I got to work together a lot more.
One of the things living in a big city is that you're like, oh, do a meetup. Oh, just go to your local gaming store, but you forget. People live in the sticks. There's, it might be a 20-mile walk to the next house, and things like Roll20 are instrumental for putting people together like that. And I have seen it happen time and time again, where literally this is the only outlet people have for this amazing hobby that they just can't wait to do. And fortunately, technology has broken down a lot of those barriers.
Definitely. I'll say another good place to find people to game with are Discords for gamers. Like a lot of streams and shows and podcasts have Discords, and people are so excited and so in their fandom together. And I've seen a couple of really cool campaigns come out of just Discords. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I think a lot of the favorite D&D shows or role-playing shows that people watch have Discords that are for those fandoms that also have rooms for people who want to play together.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're totally right. That's made a lot of great groups. I wanted to touch on something that Brandon said. Brandon, you said that you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself in this game. And, Cicero, you were talking about the lack of toxicity that you've experienced. I want to hear a little bit about what you guys think the impact this has made on you in terms of being part of the tabletop role-playing community, and what importance you kind of assign to your game and putting it on stream. Why is it important to put what you're putting out there? I know that's a big question.
Oh, Cicero, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, I think. Well, it's always important. So, part of the mission at Spawn on Me is to go out and reach out to marginalized communities and give them a voice and give them a platform. So, that's just been my mission. It's really been my mission since before, Spawn on Me existed. So doing this is just, Rivals of Waterdeep is an avenue for me, or a vehicle for me to have a lot of fun. But as a result, a side result of having all that fun, I can go out there and show other people, and collectively we can show marginalized folks that there is space for us in this, and that it is fun, so that so many more people can experience it. And as a result of being involved with Waterdeep, it's like the amount of people that I've actually come into contact with has really been amazing, via Twitter, or in fact, I was just hanging out at a friend's house playing a board game over at his house, and a friend of his said, "Oh, wait a minute, you're Cicero Holmes from Rivals of Waterdeep. I just read about that because I play tabletop games." So like that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and a big part of it for me, and shout out to Greg and to Aram, is that D&D didn't go, look at us, we're so diverse. They didn't play the diversity card and go, look at us, aren't we great because we did this show with all these brown people and these queer folks. Is that we just got to go play. And I think it's more effective and more impactful when you see people like yourself, because some people are like, I want to do that. I like to be on a show like that one day. And it's like, hey, we're here. You don't have to go like just hang out with just like 5 of your buddies. You can do this too. And I think it's just been way more impactful. And I mean, Serena got a letter from a fan when we were at Stream of Many Eyes.
Yeah, we had a God's Fall meetup, and this dad came up to me, and his name is John. So if you're watching, John, hi. But he gave me a letter that his daughter had wrote because she was a big fan of my character on the Dungeon Rats, and inside of this letter was a poem that she wrote for my character, and it was just about how she wants to be my character's best friend, and that I'm cool, funny, and smart. And coming from an acting theater background, like when you think about characters, like you don't get cool, funny, and smart, you get pretty, or something like that. And so I'm getting kind of emotional.
And that's okay, you made me cry.
But it was really impactful and kind, and shows how much these shows can do for people of all ages and all ethnicities, and just from all walks of life.
We had a conversation. We had like very early on when we were getting together. I think it was the character build. We had a very let's talk about the real thing that's going to happen for the show, because it's a show of all marginalized people. So we got real very quick with each other about just like, okay, these are some of the dangers that we're going to see. These are the things that we're going to see like up front, where I imagine like this isn't a conversation that like a show that's not like this is happening. You know what I mean? Everyone else, like on the other side, like I imagine anytime a game like this has happened, they're talking about, oh, I'm going to get so many Twitter followers and I'm going to get this. Mm-hmm. And we're just like, guys, we got to get real right now.
Right.
What if this thing happens? What do we do?
What do we do when this happens?
Yeah.
And we also had to like very get real with ourselves. We had to say, okay, well, we're already behind the 8 ball. We're marginalized people. We also have we don't have the equipment and we don't have the access that like a lot of other people have that are already at this level that we want to be at someday. We realize that we also don't have, not everyone has the knowledge and the history of all this. Right. So that puts us at like a novice level as well. We're not professional performers, you know what I mean? Like, so that puts us at a disadvantage as well. We're normal.
And we're in Chicago. And
we're in Chicago. Right. And we just had to have this conversation, and not so much to put ourselves down, but we had to just all be on the same team. And we had to say, well, we have to be better. Like we still have to be better. And I don't think a lot of people have that conversation, but it's a feeling that like, I know myself as a Mexican Puerto Rican man, like I feel like I have to be better in everything I do. And I know everyone that was in that meeting that they felt that no matter what they do, they have to be really good at it when they do it. And it's a scary feeling. It's a scary feeling to go into something that you want to be like, excited and happy about, and you want to think like great things and be positive about, but you have to check in with that. And the way we found the way we got over that, or the one of the things that I think about is just like, okay, all that stuff aside, marginalized people, equipment, like access, history, all that stuff aside, like what do we have? And what we have is just like our own shine. Like we know how to shine. We know how to get the best out of each other, and what that means to just be happy. And we had to just like believe that that was enough.
Yeah.
That it's enough just to be us and to shine. And I think people see that, like the reaction we see on Twitter, like people are very happy to see us. They constantly comment more than like who we look like or how we're playing. They comment at like how happy we are. It looks like a fun table. You put that all the time.
Yeah.
It looks like a real fun table, which I love. I love that.
Yeah, and we also had to have that very real conversation with Greg and Bart and Pelham about it's Twitch. And, Brandon and I are a stream, and, we have Spawn on Me, that we have to be prepared. And I'm so glad to be proven wrong. I was expecting
same. Like I was really expecting like crazy stuff happening, but like that first day after the stream happened, it was all positive. I still haven't seen anything negative about our whole group. Like in general, it's been amazing, and just seeing people talking about like they feel that they can start their own group just by seeing us has been incredible. It's been amazing.
Right.
Yeah, we got fan art. I mean, I legit
crazy.
Within hours.
Fan
art.
Yeah.
That was really crazy.
Yeah.
It's really been a blast. Tanya, obviously, Tanya was the one behind the scenes. Tanya was the one who got myself, Sharif, and Brandon involved. And Tanya's obviously a veteran to playing role-playing games. Her name is Cypher of Tear for crying out loud. But like the four of us, myself, Sharif, Tanya, and Brandon knew each other fairly well. But these super veterans in Aram and Serena and Carlos, being able to merge with them, as Aram said it, he is like a DM for Rivals of Waterdeep, but he's also like the DM for my life. I just need him to narrate my life. But he said it perfectly with it's the merge, the merging of two families, and it's and sometimes you merge two families. I was married once. There is an aftermath to that. So you merge two families, but sometimes you break those families up. But this is the merging of two families that really, really enjoy each other, really have an affinity for each other. Are two sides of the same coin, and it has really come together in a great way. And you know what? Chemistry really matters. It matters in baseball. It matters in science. And it matters in D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people have commented to like me on. Like I've seen the word chemistry probably more than anything else. Yeah. And I've, people have asked me like, how long you guys been playing together? I think there's this assumption that we had, been playing together for years, right. At this point, and I just think, it's just a blessing that we were able to connect so well. And I really do feel like it is something kind of bigger, than the game itself, because I know that if I was younger and I saw, a group of like marginalized people having fun and like playing this, I might have started playing earlier,
right? Because
I definitely saw it as something that I was like, well, even though I was into all this other kind of nerdy stuff, it just seemed like it was another level. And like, it was like, well, can I do that? Or if I do that, can I be myself? Do I have to, kind of change it up in an uncomfortable way? Especially because I kind of heard about sort of this, orc and colored kind of these kind of weird tropes that can sometimes happen in fantasy. But like Tanya said, I was just proven wrong. I mean, and I'm very happy that I was, because all I keep thinking is, man, I wish I did this earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had I've experienced that expectation being proven wrong as well in terms of toxicity in the tabletop role-playing community. And I kind of want to dig even deeper into that. Tanya, you said that you had certain expectations and then were proven wrong.
Yep.
I'm assuming you mean you kind of expected a more toxic reaction to the live stream show than you received. So I kind of have a two-part question for all of you, but Tanya first. What was that experience like? And second, what do you think we all need to do to preserve that community that is right now so welcoming?
I've been on Twitch for 4 years. I've been, luckily part of a few things for Twitch Unity and have experienced a lot of name calling, slurs, etc. So that's what I expected. And it's sad because I'm like, there's a bunch of brown people on the screen and I know what I've experienced, and I've been in Brandon's streams and what's spawned on me and what we've experienced. So I was so happy to be proven wrong, and I'm not really a weepy person, but y'all are making me want to cry. I was very happy because I didn't know what to expect. I knew we were front page on Twitch, and we're on this big soundstage and it's professional production. And, our group was brand new. This is our first time really playing together on the stage. And I didn't know if things would go wrong, if there'd be technical issues, but also getting to watch the chat later and seeing people so happy to see us, getting the fan art, getting so many people on Twitter and Twitch just so happy to see our group. It gave me a boost because it was just hard for me emotionally because it was just so, I don't know. I've come to expect the worst in a lot of ways. So to give my old curmudgeon-y heart a lift was really good. And for what we can do to be better is, call people when they say racist things in a chat. Don't allow people to take over the chat and break it up or ruin that community feeling, because for so many people, it's a space that they didn't think they could have. Good moderation, good community stuff, and making people feel welcome, because a lot of people don't feel welcome, especially in huge chats when someone's front page or when it's a big chat or something like that. It was so nice, and to go back to my Discord and see people so happy and to see people just excited. So I think having that emotion and compassion and being welcoming to newcomers and just telling people that's not what we do here when people do try to start things is the key to it. And that's what I've always talked about. I mean, even when I came to visit the Twitch office a year ago. So that's what I talk about all the time, of community is what you make of it. I know Adam Cobble's in the chat, and he's talked a lot about that is teaching people and teaching compassion and educating them, which granted, some days I don't have the patience for, but I think educating people is far more valuable than just banning them outright sometimes, because sometimes people just are kids. They don't know any better, but it is what it is.
Sharif, or anyone else, is that similar to your perception of what happened? And then also what you think we can do to make sure we protect the welcomingness we have?
Yeah. I think Tanya is right on target. I will add that in terms of the protection side, I think a good thing to enable that and to keep that going is to make sure that, there's just a diversity of people involved, not only in the games, but in the communication and marketing, in the, like gaming should be seen as something that's representative of the world, right? Like it shouldn't be seen as just this domain, right, of like a certain subset, of whether it's gender or or anywhere on the gender spectrum or race or like anything like that. So I feel like if like you show that, and at the same time, as was said like earlier, you don't show it like asking to be like patted on the head and congratulated for doing it. Like you make an honest effort, like this is what we represent. I feel like that's the best way, because I feel like toxic people they will see that and they'll either leave straight up because they're like, wow, they're really serious about this, or there'll be sort of natural accountability from the other people in the community, because they'll be like, this is what it represents. And if somebody is like out of pocket. There's almost that sense of self-moderation because of what you're already like surrounded by, because you're surrounded by what the norm is. Like, I don't want Rivals to be looked at as different from the norm. Like, this is normal D&D, and this is this offshoot group, you know. like diversity should be the norm, you know, and that should be like reflected everywhere. You know, it shouldn't be weird to have have queer people playing D&D or like Latinos or or like Native Americans. Like it's so like that's like the one thing that I was super worried about, is that we would be pigeonholed in as not the normal D&D group. This is the special group. But
it's
like
the
we're
Rainbow Coalition.
yeah, exactly. But like we're nerds that like to have fun just like everybody else. And like I think once and this obviously is a huger issue than just in the D&D community, but I feel like once that comes into play, that diversity is a norm and you see it like reflected everywhere, that's when that like protection and self-moderation, and when we can really reach like the heights that that these forms of media can get to.
I agree with all of that so much. I think that there is always learning that's happening. Like, everybody goes through life with their like unconscious biases and how they were raised, what they've experienced. If you're from a small town and you don't experience a lot of diversity in that town, be open and willing to learn and to connect with communities that are outside of your own. I know I'm from Arizona, and I was the token friend, token friend of color in a lot of my friend groups, and the idea that I was representative of all of the people, because I'm multiracial, is kind of unfair. So I would say a good thing to do is just open yourself up to more experiences with people. And if you feel yourself feeling uncomfortable or your biases are getting in the way, just kind of lean into it, because people are interesting and we're all people, and let's learn about each other.
Right. When we had our character creation and I was selecting my character, I told Aram that I wanted my character Perrin to be basically Tyrion Lannister. And one of the things that Tyrion, a fictional character, said that was very, very poignant early on in the run of Game of Thrones. I think it was like the second or third episode of season 1. Tyrion he's talking to Jon Snow, and he says that all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes. But he also says that you take your limitations or your differences and use them as an armor. And that way you can't be injured by them. And I think that is something that we've all, as marginalized folks, something that we've all had to learn. Either learn it early and be smart, or learn it via trial by fire. But it is still something that we learn, and it's an important thing to go out and do this. Not necessarily for us, but for other people that need to be able to see others that look like them, that share similar experiences, that culturally resemble their makeup, so that they can also see that they're not alone. And that's super, super important.
I think it's so fascinating to talk about both the challenges that the current state of technology presents to us and also the opportunities. And especially since we're here at Roll20Con, it's important to talk about some of the cool things that technology is allowing us to do, like streaming this show, like being able to meet over a table that only exists digitally. So I'm curious, as we kind of wind down, unfortunately, a little bit, because I could talk to you guys forever, but let's talk a little bit about Roll20, about playing on a virtual tabletop, about bringing people together, and some of the experiences you guys might have had that you want to share with people who are watching that may be wanting to have those similar experiences.
Yeah, we ran a game literally last night. We ran a Dungeon Rats game on our Twitch stream. We used Roll20, and it was with our one of our Patreon backers. At a certain level, they get to play a game with us, and he was from Australia. How could that happen in any other way without Roll20? So he logs in, I log in, he sees the map, and we just start playing. At the same time, we're streaming on Twitch to a bunch of people that are watching in their homes throughout the world. And it's just a fantastic thing that you couldn't do maybe even like, I don't know, like
Even a couple of years.
yeah, even a couple years ago, you couldn't do it at the quality that looks like as good as a production company can do. You know what I mean? And people are doing these things in their houses, which is just like insane to me.
One of the it's and as long as we're talking about tech, one of the most amazing things for me in the D&D community or the role playing community in general has been podcasting. And podcasting, the barrier went boom, boom, boom. It came way down. So where if you got a couple mics and some friends in a room, you can sound pretty damn decent. And I think that it has allowed so many more people to play and to be experienced. Because as people say, D&D can be intimidating. The rules are scary. A lot of RPGs, you get this big, thick book. You're like, oh my God, do I have to know all this before I even sit down with my friends? But if you can watch someone play, if you can listen to someone play, if you can get a feel for a table in an intimate setting with friends on a podcast, on a Roll20 show, however you want to get it, you can kind of jumpstart that. You can get into the game, get into the rules, feel comfortable before you ever sit down in what I feel is a far more natural way to learn.
Yeah, and Roll20 actually changed how. So I had never DM'd before, and I've DM'd twice, and both times I'm trying to like figure out my own flow. Like, how do I make my own game? How do I do this? How do I get my characters and setting and scenes? And I found Roll20 to be such a great tool because I actually start with Roll20 before I would start writing anything. I take out Roll20 and I start building a map, and I don't know what I'm building, but like there's so many options and there's so many settings and so many things to choose from that I just start getting inspired. So I start making this little town, and based on this artwork, I'm like, oh, this guy would go here. And then I start thinking of the characters and I start writing those characters down. And I'm like, oh, in this town, because it's real world building. You don't want to write a story. You don't want to write a story like, oh, and then they do this and do that and do this. Instead, just like write a world on like what's happening in this house, what's happening with this person. And then when your players go, you already know what's happening in that world. You're literally built the world for them. So there's no like points that they have to hit. And the great thing about Roll20 is like I could visually do that instead of like, I remember when I first first wanting to start DMing, I pulled out like a piece of paper. I'm like, okay, time to build a world. And I'm like, here's a box. I know nothing about like layouts or blueprints or anything like that. I know nothing about maps. So I'm like, okay, well, this other box is also a house, but it's a different house. And I'm like, so I'm like, I wanted to see what tools were out there. So I got Roll20. And I think the next day I upgraded to a pro account. Just because there were so many more options. I was like, oh, and I can do this. I could have this light like come up. Like I could have these tokens, and like the marketplace is a great place for artwork. Like I have like my own favorite artists like on that marketplace that I will buy because it's interchangeable now, and I can use like this guy's forest theme, and I can use like his his town, his small town, his river theme. I'm rambling about Roll20. Someone else talk.
Well, actually, I wanted to talk quickly about my own GMing because I hadn't GM'd in very, very long. But I got a chance to do a charity stream here on Roll20. And it was my first time GMing on a stream. And it was easy and it was fun. It was also because I'm a big Dragon Age nerd and I could talk about Dragon Age like in my sleep. So the tools made me feel confident, if that makes sense. Because I didn't feel like I need to have like a stack of books, 20 notes, 8 trays of dice to know what I'm doing. And it's all there and it makes it easy. Because I mean, the last long running campaign that I was in that wasn't in person was done on Roll20. So it gives me a chance to still role play with friends and not have to like be an hour on the bus, or wake up at 2 a.m. because someone's in a different time zone. So
yeah,
I'm all for Roll20.
I'm a Linux admin by trade. Have been for the last almost 20 plus years. And I'm all about technology. So Roll20 works for me because like I can actually use it on a tablet, and so like I don't have to actually go out and buy extra things.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I'm with that.
Yeah, and I was having problems with I'm new to Twitch also, so I'm running through OBS, and I was having problems with like Skype, putting Skype into OBS, and at the same time, how do they hear like my shotgun mics and not get a delay when the audio comes out? But a very easy fix to that was just have a laptop open with Roll20, and he's looking at me through my laptop, and I run through my other computer, like all the OBS stuff. And it's great because it's both the map and the video are coming through the browser, which means like if you work with OBS, like that's very easy, like just to point it straight to the browser. And it's like, 2 birds, 1 stone. It's great.
Well, and I know that, like Serena was saying about that letter, the ability to kind of reach out through technology and touch people in ways that you don't even expect is so cool. And I love hearing your guys' stories. It's touched me so much. And unfortunately, we only have 4 minutes left. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to mention what you're up to next, what people can watch for, both in terms of Rivals of Waterdeep, but also in your personal projects. So where did we end last time? We ended with Aram. Let's go backwards. Aram, what about you?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm still running God's Fall. Season 4 is getting ready to wrap up as I'm getting the next episodes out. I love our run through Tomb of Annihilation right now. Please check that out. I think Carlos wrote literally 4 entire episodes of original music front to back, composed for an entire hour. It's unbelievable. I love the Dungeon Rats. I adore Rivals of Waterdeep. And we've just got contacted recently by the people who did the Fate system. And it looks like we may be doing another show soon, which is news to everyone except for Carlos. So
I had no idea. What?
Not me. I read the DMs.
Aram, you want to pass it to the next person?
Oh, yeah, please. Cicero, because he's on my right.
All right. There you go. So, Stubby Stan on Twitter, Spawn on Me every Tuesday in podcast form, every Thursday right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Spawn on Me, and Discovery Debrief whenever we're out. But if you're a Star Trek Discovery fan, make sure you check us out. If you're a Star Trek fan, make sure you check us out. Rivals of Waterdeep, I love you, stupid nerds. You guys are awesome. But make sure, if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you do check us out so you can hear things like Urban Elven and LL Cool Tiefling, because we really like D&D, but we're gonna put 22s on that son of a bitch. So. And Carlos and Serena, because they're right below me.
Nice. You can catch us on the Twitters and also on all the shows on Neon Rivals, which includes God's Fall and the Dungeon Rats. And with Rivals of Waterdeep, if you missed the stream, it's also on YouTube and on podcast.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter. It's Carlos Kritz.
Oh,
you can say your name.
Serena Marie.
There is an order to this. She said there's an order.
Sorry.
You can find me on Twitter, Carlos Kritz. My podcast is The Dungeon Rats. Check that out. I do original music and sound effects. I try to get it. We're all improvisers at the table, and we try to get it as close to a real adventure, a real audio drama or audio adventure as we can. So it sounds very produced. I'm also a cast member on God's Fall, which is the serious version of the Dungeon Rats.
Yes, very serious with our talking pigs.
Talking pigs, yes.
Blinkers.
Yeah, and of course, like Rivals, I'm playing Knock Knock, and hopefully one day I'll be playing the NPCs very soon. Let me pass it to Sharif.
Yeah. So if you go to sharifjackson.com, SHAREEF Jackson.com, that'll have links to all my projects. The Spawn on Me stuff, of which we have a bunch of E3 coverage up. We have about, I believe, 30 different interviews and stuff like that we captured in LA on the video game side. I'm currently wrapping up a video project called Math Looks Good, which is named after my tutoring stuff, where I'm using different games, movies, and pop culture thing to explain laws of math and physics. I did one on Black Panther a couple months ago that got some really good reception, so I am going on to the next thing. So yeah, that's the next thing that I'm working on. And if you go to the website, you can keep track of all that. And also, I'm Sharif Jackson on all social networks: Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. So.
Pass the mic.
Oh, right.
Thanks,
Pass the mic to Tanya.
So I'm Cypher of Tier pretty much everywhere online. As for stuff I'm doing beside Rivals of Waterdeep and Spawn on Me, I have an anthology I edited that just came out June 13th. It's on my pinned tweet currently, and it's marginalized folks in the industry, and adjacent to it, Sharif has an essay in there as well. I am also going to be at BlurredCon, Gen Con, and Game Devs of Color Expo. Those are my next three things, and currently pitching panels for TwitchCon and PAX Dev and PAX West. So I will never be home again. Sorry to tell you. And I also stream on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So just variety of games. Sometimes I do talk shows. Sometimes I do art and creative and paint sculptures. I just do a lot of things, and just also run my mouth on the internet, which, sadly people still pay attention to that. So.
Oh, I just want to make a quick announcement. Aram, Serena, and myself and the other Dungeon Rats, we will be at Gen Con.
Yes.
We're going to be running
a ton of games.
A ton of games,
ton of panels,
diversity panel,
improv workshop,
advanced improv. We're doing advanced role playing through improv, so that one's really good too. You might want to check it out, and just come find us. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Work. I love it.
I guess it's me.
Brandon.
I'll keep it real short. So actually, this is the first time taking a break from life right now. So, but you can find me on I Am Brandon TV on Twitter. I Am Brandon on Twitch. The only thing I have right now is TwitchCon and our show, of course, and just see me everywhere if you see me around. Yeah, you probably will see me in GameStop stores and stuff because I did some stuff for E3. So if you go into GameStop, you'll see my face there a few times. But that's about it right now. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we hit everybody, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This has been great. We could talk all day, but we unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, have another game coming up because Adam Coble is going to lead us in a game of masks. Don't forget that we're raising money for Take This. Log into your Roll20 account first and then donate because you get some cool perks from that. And also remember that if you tag your games for Roll20Con, you'll also get some perks there from Roll20, so don't forget. But right now, we must say goodbye to the Rivals of Waterdeep, but you'll see them again very soon on Twitch. Thank you guys so much. And now let's hand it over to Adam.